not used to this. I thought they'd have people to do this kind of shit for you, but they don't. It's do it yourself. I honestly, can you hear me? Yeah? I honestly have no idea what I'm doing here. I feel like a complete imposter here with a lot of really genuinely talented, funny women who do it for a living. And I am not a comedian. I am not a stand-up. I am a writer who fell foul of the two wagons who organised this gig, Orla and Val, who managed, their sales pitch was incredible. It consisted of, Orla started by telling me this was an all-women gig and it's great and women supporting women and that's all right up my alley. And I'm like, yeah, that's great, yeah, great. And then she said, I'm like, Barbara, we have women in their 20s and in their 30s and in their 40s and we have women in their 50s. We don't have anybody in their 60s. And I bought that. I went, yeah, that's great. So I am here as the token owl one because they couldn't find anybody else to be here. And it's kind of appropriate because I wrote a book for owl ones and it has an owl on the cover just in case anybody is unsure. But it's not just for owl ones. It's for women who are younger, I think, as well. But the book is about getting older and being older because I believe that your third act, your 60 plus, your postmenopausal years are potentially the most creative, the most fun, and the most fulfilling years if you are ready for them. That's the spiel about the book, which will be for sale at the interval over there. And you can buy it for yourself. But one of the reasons why I think getting older is so powerful is freedoms, and there's lots of freedoms to talk about it in the book, but let's mention one or two of them. One is the freedom of no longer giving a fuck. I have given too many fucks. I've given too many fucks for too long, and I now have no more fucks left, so I don't give a fuck, and that is a great freedom. On top of not giving a fuck, you also have the freedom from fearing failure. Because when you get to my age, you'll have failed not once, not twice, many times, and you realise you're still here. You didn't die, and so there you're grand. And then as well as that, you have the doomsday clock, which is ticking in the background, kind of saying, do you know what? If you get an opportunity, maybe you should take it because it mightn't come around again. And I don't want to be up in heaven going, damn, I wish I'd done that, even though it sounded mad. Because it might have been great crack. And I might have failed and crashed and burned. But sure, if I did, so what? So Orla knew all that. She knew exactly what she was doing when she got me involved in this. So one of the things that's in the title of my book is the word wisdom. And you do get wiser. I'm sure you'll agree. You do get wiser as you get older. I'm not the oldest woman in the room. Sure, I'm not. Oh, great. Okay, this is good. And I can only see the first two rows. So I have no glasses on. So I can't see beyond that. I have no idea who's out there beyond that. But wisdom is not like a magic superpower that suddenly descends from on high when you reach 60. Wisdom comes from doing it wrong a million times down through the years and finally learning to do it right. So it's part of that wisdom that I wanted to share with you tonight. And as it is an all-woman show, I thought I should talk about something I write about in the book, which is smear tests. Now, smear tests are not possibly the greatest crack you'll ever have. They're not great. It's a bit like going to the dentist. It's one of those kind of necessary evils that you have to do in life. And actually, before we get into the kind of hilarious bit of smear tests, I never talk about or write about smear tests without thinking of Vicky Phelan and the other brave women who sorted out the mess that was the cervical cancer thing here. And should also say that having your smear test, although it's not great crack, is very important, and you should definitely have your smear test. So I had my first smear test when I was in my 20s. This was back in the 80s. They hadn't really invented female GPs yet. They were still working on the prototype. And most of the GPs were men. So my GP practice had 3 men, and the only woman in the place at all was the receptionist, and she didn't do smear tests. So I had to go to my doctor, who was a lovely man. I thought he was old. He was probably in his 40s, maybe 50. And he was a kind of, if it's not politically incorrect to say, he was a bit of a West Brit. He was all jolly good and jolly hockey sticks. He was a bit like, he was full of nervous energy, a bit like Basil Fawlty without the anger. And I'm aware there's only certain people might get that reference in the room. So anyway, jogged along and presented myself into the surgery. Oh, Barbara, jolly good, lovely to see you. What are you here for? I said, I'm here for a smear test. Silence. And his face had this parade of emotions that ranged from shock to bafflement to kind of mild amusement, none of which filled me with any kind of confidence at all. This was my first smear test. And he goes, "Oh, right, jolly good, Jess. I generally see all the older women here. Haven't done a smear test now for a while. But no, no, that's fine. Off you go in there and remove the lower half of your garments." And he pulled the curtain around, and "I'll be with you in a minute." And off he went. And to this day, I'm fairly sure he went off to look up a manual as to where he might likely find my cervix, because he couldn't Google it. Anyway, then I did the thing that you do. And actually, before I ever got there, about a week beforehand, anticipating this big event in my life, I kind of went, what should I do about the grooming? Now, grooming wasn't a thing really in the 80s like it is now. Women of my age have all their hairy bits. We haven't made airplane landing strips. We haven't got it all off so we look like a child. We have it all going on. So I was talking about a minor kind of piece of housekeeping. I thought, I wonder, should I do so? So I thought, maybe give it a bit of a haircut. I wouldn't like his fingers to get stuck somewhere. So I thought, yeah, maybe I'll give it a bit of a haircut. And then I wondered about the bikini line. But back in those days, your options... This is going better than I thought, to be honest now, really. I wasn't sure how this would land. Back in the 80s, your options for doing a bit of tidying up was a razor or creams that weren't great. And both were likely to give you a rash. And I thought, if I land down there with a rash, he's going to think I have an STD or something, and then we're going to go off on a whole other thing. So I decided a little haircut, and that was fine. Anyway, back in the room, and I'm removing my undergarments, and something I hadn't anticipated was your shoes and socks. I'm like, what do I do about my shoes? And I thought, okay, take your shoes off, because it's not polite to lie on anybody's bed with your shoes on. So we take the shoes off. But what about the socks? Like, I don't need to take the socks off, so therefore, if I take them off, is it going to look like I'm trying to be attractive or sexy? Because I look a bit weird with my socks on? So I decided in the end, leave the socks on, take the shoes off. And then I did what I still do to this day. And hands up here, anybody who doesn't do this. You take off your lower toes, you fold them nicely, you put them on the stool, and then you take off your knickers, and where do you put them? Underneath or in the pocket. Because God forbid, the fella who's going to be staring up your fanny might actually see your knickers. That'd be a disaster. I'm meant to be reading this, Jesus. Okay, so minutes passed as I lay there, and I finally heard him re-enter into the room, and a face came round the curtain wearing a big happy grin and what looked like a miner's helmet strapped to his forehead. "Jolly good," he said, "we're all set." And off we went. And the smear test was performed with reasonable ease, and it was all jolly good fun by all accounts. Now, straight after that then, well, a few years after that, was the having babies years. So my smear tests were done by my gynecologist. Now, once you've given birth once, never mind 3 times as I did, you've lost any worries about your dignity. Gone. You have no dignity left. You're not a bit worried about who sees your fanny, because everybody has seen your fanny. I mean, you're lying in the delivery room in agony, and you're conscious of people coming and going, and you've no clue as to who half of them are. It could have been the cleaner, the window cleaner, and you didn't care. It didn't matter. So by the time you'd done all... I mean, if my fanny turned up on the evening news one night, I wouldn't have been surprised. Although I wouldn't have recognised it. Because we can't see our fannies. Like, men can see their bits. They can hold on to them. They can jiggle them around. They can look at the length of it and worry about the length. We can see nothing. Especially women of my age where you're all hairy as well. Nothing. I never knew that fannies looked different until I stumbled across that stupid Channel 4 dating naked show. And I went, what? Some people's are in and some are out. And I knew none of that. Anyway, I was released back into the care of my GP. My Basil Fawlty had retired. And my new GP, who is still my GP and a very nice man, and he's about my own age, which made it a little strange. It was easier with an older old fella. And he's a beekeeper, so we call him the beekeeper. And he's very nice. So by this time, our GP surgery had a female GP, and we had a practice nurse. But Magoo here thought, I'm all down with this. Like, I don't need to go to a woman, just to have a smear test. Like, he's my doctor. Why would I go to her when she's not my doctor? He's my doctor, so I'll go to him. So again, rocked up, and, hi, Barbara, what do you here for? I'm here for a smear test. stony-faced. No parade of emotions. He was furious. And he just looked at me as if to say, what the actual fuck? We have now got women. What are you doing in here looking for a smear test? But it was too late. Like, what could I do? We were kind of committed. So I get the usual, in you go, off your lower garments, and he pulled around the curtain. So anyway, took it off, folded up, got on the bed, no shoes, and then no blanket. So I shouted out, sorry, where's my blanket? What blanket? My modesty blanket. I'm not going to lie here with all my bits hanging out without a blanket. Oh, for God's sake. And he disappeared. And once again, I'm left on the bed waiting. So a few minutes later, I go back to reading this, Jesus. A few minutes later, an arm came through the curtain brandishing a blanket, a picnic blanket, a very small, very scratchy picnic blanket. Please tell me you didn't get this out the boot of your car, said I. At this stage, he'd had it with me. No, I didn't, he said. So I disported myself on the bed, knickerless, looking like I was wearing a tartan miniskirt a la Vivienne Westwood at the height of the punk era. And in the distance was the sound of the penny dropping that says, go to the fucking practice nurse. So the following year I made an appointment with the practice nurse. And down I went, and the room was lovely, and it was very warm, and she was that nice kind of nursey combination of empathy and common sense. And up on the bed, and there was a lovely yellow blanket. It was really soft. It was great. And everything was going remarkably well as she approached me with KY jelly. This was a new departure in one hand and a speculum in the other, which she announced was a plastic speculum. Far more comfortable, says she, and not half as cold. I thought, geez, the job is Oxford. I finally got this right. So everything was going along well. She was furkling away. And I was lying there, you know, when they tell you relax. And you're like, yeah, really relax. Furkling away, and she furkled some more, and then she kept furkling, and I was thinking, this is taking a bit longer than I would have expected. And a bit more furkling. And then the next thing, then she said to me with a hint of exasperation, I think you might have a tilted cervix. And I said, I've had 3 kids, and I'm 40-something, and now I'm finding out I had a tilted cervix. Anyway, she kept going, and the next thing, there was a loud crack, like a gunshot, rang through the surgery and emanated from my nether regions. I nearly fell off the bed with the fright. I'm sure there was old people out in the waiting room that nearly had heart attacks. I looked at her, and her face had gone completely red, and she said, there are my notes in case I forgot where I was going and couldn't see the book. Her face went a bright shade of red, and she said, oh my God, I've never had that happen before. As she retrieved her speculum, which was in 2 separate pieces. So, the things I worry about now, just in case those of you are not there, obviously not worried about the grooming, not worried about what it looks like. Now I worry about not farting. Because as you get older, that's an occupational hazard that you've no control over. You know, the sneaky ones that come out of nowhere, no holding them in, off they arrive. So I haven't managed to do that yet, but that is the biggest worry. Oh, that and the fact that, you know, it's not as busy a highway as it might have once been. Worrying that they might find a spider's web or something up there. But so far, it's been okay. So the wisdom I'm going to leave you with is, don't let a man do your smear test. He doesn't want to do it unless he's a gynecologist, and it won't be great. And beware of plastic implements. They're not as robust as you might think. Thanks very much.